For our first conversation in this hour, we are engaging the Namibia Financial Institutions Supervisory Authority that officially launched its 2025 First Quarter Statistical Report on the 30th of June. The report provides a comprehensive analysis of key trends and performance within the non-banking financial institutions and sectors from January to the end of March 2025. The statistical report reflects continued resilience and steady growth across the NBFI sector, which comprises insurance companies, medical aid funds, retirement funds, friendly societies, capital markets, and microlending institutions. To shed more light on this, I am joined by Bartholomeus Katota, the Financial Stability Manager at NAMFISA. Good morning, sir, and thank you so much for being here this morning.
Yes, good morning. Thank you.
Please talk to us about the significance of the 2025 First Quarter Statistical Report and who exactly it is intended for.
Yes. So basically, before I touch on the significance, I should say to you that NAMFISA regulates a sizable industry.
Okay.
In terms of size of the assets, we have currently, the latest report indicates that we have over the total size of industry came in at, as at the first quarter, it was over 481 billion. And also in terms of number of companies or entities that we regulate, they are over 1,000. So that is a quite sizable industry. So basically, the purpose of the report has twofolds. One part of our stakeholder engagement, what normally happens is we give feedback to industry in terms of how the industry is performing, that is in terms of the financial side, and also in terms of supervisory developments. You know, we also do inspections and other stakeholder engagements. So basically, it's intended to give feedback to all our stakeholders, key stakeholders, be it the policymakers, be it the general public, investors, and so on. So that the significance is just to keep our investors and the general public informed in terms of the latest developments, challenges, opportunities, and also giving feedback in terms of, you know, the latest trends and developments, policy interventions, and so on.
It indicates, the report for that matter, indicates that there is continued resilience in the non-banking financial sector. So what would you say were some of the key drivers of this performance?
Yeah, so basically, by resilience, what it means actually, it means that the industry remains financially sound and healthy. So the key drivers of our industry predominantly, so it's mainly driven by 80% or 80% of the assets that I mentioned, they are investment assets. And we have the three sectors, namely your investment sector, basically your collective investment, your pension fund, and the retirement fund. I mean, pension fund, retirement, and insurance sector. So these three industries contribute over 90% of the industry. So in terms of resilience, we mean that the sector remains to grow in a healthy and sustainable manner. So the drivers of the growth was mainly favorable investment performance, because more than half of the assets are invested in equity markets, and the performance of the equity markets and the stock markets globally has been favorable for the past quarter.
What we are also seeing in the report is that it's making mention of some challenges that are being experienced, especially within the microlending sector. How are these being addressed?
Yeah, so maybe I should just highlight to you that in terms of statistics, over 85% of the microlenders remained compliant with the regulators. So only the small fraction, which is below 15%, had issues from a compliance perspective. And the key issues were mainly in terms of late submission of returns, or non-payment of levies, or complaints from clients, and so on. So in terms of addressing that, the regulators we have legislation tools. In this case, we make use of the Microlending Act, and that gives now guidelines in terms of how do we then address, in terms of the affordability and the other compliance issues, in terms of how should the microlenders treat the customers from in terms of the guidelines, in terms of the pricing requirements, and other issues. So our tool as a regulator is simply to leverage the guidelines in terms of the Microlending Act, and that is what guides us. And at the micro level, we continuously monitor and engage the problematic entities or areas which needs improvement. So we just enforce the provisions in our law.
Yeah. Another issue that stands out, sir, is the notable increase in consumer complaints. What do these complaints actually center around, and what does this trend and increase actually indicate to us?
Yeah, so that is an interesting one. Basically, two things. So one, an increase in complaints it's a disadvantage in the sense that customers are not being treated or customers are not happy about the services being provided by industry. So the flip side is from our perspective as a regulator, the positive side that we see is there's an increase in awareness from a consumer perspective to come to the regulators to seek recourse in terms of addressing the concerns. So basically the increase is just in terms of the statistics that we, in terms of number of consumers coming to NAMFISA to report issues or complaints regarding their disputes or queries against their regulated financial companies. So during the during the last quarter, so there was an increase. It means more people came to NAMFISA. The positives, we have reported an increase in awareness, and then we were able to sort of resolve over 90% of those complaints, and an amount of over 200,000 Namibian dollars were recovered and reimbursed back in favor of the complainant. So we have a department which is called complaints department, and what normally happens is when there's a query from a public, they come to NAMFISA. NAMFISA looks at the complaint objectively, and then on a quarter-to-quarter basis, we also give feedback in terms of the top 10 complaints. We actually use this platform also as a feedback loop. So in our quarterly bulletin, there's a section where we also provide feedback to all the feedbacks in terms of the common complaints, and then we use that as a feedback loop to also educate consumers around some of the issues around our customer complaints. So it's also a feedback loop to educate our consumers on what they should know about their contracts and so on and so forth. And also at the same time, we use this to improve our enforcement in terms of legislation, because depending on some cases, if we pick up that some of the complaints are not so favorable, then we use that as an opportunity to improve and tighten our controls in terms of how we deal with some of the issues that are emerging from there.
I want us to now look at the performance of some of the major subsectors, highlighting specifically the retirement funds and investment management. What are those appearing like?
Yeah, so predominantly, like I already indicated, so the performance of the investment sector and the retirement fund, by nature they are long-term. So they have long-term balance sheet in terms of their maturity profile. So in terms of their investment, they tend to invest more in long-term instruments, like your equity markets, your bonds. So the investment and outlook is fairly stable.
Okay.
And also that is also aligned to the performance of the financial markets going forward. And also our GDP, you can see that the outlook is also fairly stable. So in general, I would say going forward, we see a very much stable and favorable outlook in terms of the investment performance of the sectors.
Where can the public access the full report and more information on this if it'd like to?
So our full report is on the NAMFISA website. That is where it is, www.namfisa.com.na. And then more information, we also have our department under the Office of the CEO, Office of the Corporate Communications. I think that is the first point of contact, and then thereafter the colleagues can then direct you if more information is required. We have a research department. That's where I'm located. So we have a team of diverse experts. So depending on the nature of inquiry, whether one wants information about research or information just about investment and so on. So we have a team of experts in NAMFISA to share more information.
As we round up our conversations, I'd just like to understand, because we have been seeing, of course, an escalating consumer debt in Namibia. So how is NAMFISA then responding to these, particularly in terms of the interest rates, the lending practices by these microlenders?
Yeah, so basically we have the Microlending Act. That is our guiding tool. So normally what happens is on a periodic basis, we do on-site inspections if there's an issue, and then based on the feedback and so on, we just enforce the provisions in the Microlending Act to deal with the specific issues that are emerging from the pricing as per the Usury Act and the Microlending Act in terms of the pricing or the conduct practices around how customers or consumers are treated. Yeah, so we just guided by that.
Right. Thank you so much for being here. When can we expect the next quarterly report?
So our next quarterly report should be around September. So around about September, it's quarterly, the next quarter.
Okay.
But we'll definitely keep you posted.
Yes.
Yes.
Our platform is always welcome to NAMFISA.
All right, thank you.
Thank you very much. Well, that was Bartholomeus Katota, Financial Stability Manager at NAMFISA. We will be back. Please stay with us.